on our leaderboard. But these two are in that sort of upper tier of runners for this category at the moment.
Right, they're up in that tier where anything can really happen. I mean, Node is better than his PB tells you, and I mean, to be honest, so is Sagaz. Like that top 5 on the leaderboards, any one of them could get world record.
Yeah, you have a race between like, two people in that top 5. You have no idea where that result is going to go. Even if you had one between 1st place and 5th place, it's still anyone's game. So looks like they've started off. So for 100%, unlike our main category, we are allowed to save and quit in the run. So you'll probably see that used quite often. However, we're still not allowed to wrong warp, and we're not allowed to go out of bounds. So for 100%, what they need to do is, obviously they need to finish the game. They have to get all of the songs, all of the actual items, things like boomerang, level 2 sword. So level 2 sword requires 20 seashells. They also have to get all the heart pieces, all of the pictures, and either the red or the blue tunic. And they have to upgrade their bombs, arrows, and powder. I think I've covered everything. There's a lot they have to do.
Yeah, and if we didn't cover something, I'm sure we'll see it in the run as it goes on too. So.
Yeah, and yeah, this is like I was saying before this race. So I'm going to be biased towards the French run in this race. Of course, they're both French.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, these are our 2 resident French runners who are participating in the tournament right now, going head-to-head, only in round 2. Quite a French domination on our leaderboards lately.
I've sort of planned their race quite conveniently today, I might add.
Yeah, in terms of football.
Yeah. So you're seeing them collecting 10 rupees on the way to the shop. Now, the reason why they do this, they need to buy bombs, but they're going to save and quit when they buy bombs, because they also have to buy powder from the trendy game.
Yes, and by saving and quitting at the same moment that they buy the bombs, the game doesn't have time to actually subtract the rupees, so they essentially get them for free without needing to steal them from the shop, as you see them doing with the bow and the shovel. And in fact, the getting of the 10 rupees early on in the run is a huge RNG point very early on, but luckily we see both of them not only getting good luck, but getting about the same luck. So we see them very tight early on.
So, but before we start commentating, there was a question in chat asking what we're really looking for in this race. Honestly, we're going to be mostly looking at, I want to say, magnifying lens, early magnifying lens, early hook shot, and Rooster skip are going to be the difference makers in this race, I feel.
Yeah, I think now that we're past the rupee RNG, that those are going to be the big RNG choke points. And of course, you never know if Sagaz is going to pull out some new crazy strat, but I think today he's going to be playing it,
yeah,
playing it by the book.
He said he's not going to do early Rooster skip, which I think that's a good idea. I mean, against a runner where he can afford to lose the time if it messes up, I can see him doing it, but if he does that against Node, he's going to lose. Yeah,
exactly. It's a strat that could save time if done well, if you're going for world record grind, but in a race setting, I don't think it's worth the risk.
It's a high risk, high reward, but it's not really race friendly.
No, not at all. And they're both still so close. Yeah. We see them there, instead of getting the powder and using the powder, well, I mean, they have the powder, but instead of powdering Terran to turn them back normal, they just cross the transition and place 2 quick bombs frame after frame. And doing so tricks the game into activating Terran without having to powder him directly. And that's what we call a bomb trigger, and we're gonna see a ton of those as this run goes on.
Now, the biggest time save of doing that is actually the time in which he's normally bouncing around the screen if you powder him. If you bomb trigger, he just stays still. Yeah. So that's probably the biggest time save in doing that.
Yeah, sometimes it only saves a couple seconds, a couple frames, but we're going to see a few times where a bomb trigger saves minutes. So D1 is pretty straightforward. It's it's the tutorial dungeon of the game. It's very quick, casually, even quicker in a speed run. The difference here in our 100% route is you see them now collecting that one seashell in that behind that bombable wall there. So as Kravon mentioned, as part of collecting 100% of the items as we've defined it, they need to get the level 2 sword, which requires collecting 20 of the 26 possible seashells in the game. So it's all routed out very tightly, and so that's we're going to see them collecting those as the run goes on, and that was a very quick one for them to get.
And you might notice an order in which they collect the seashells as well. You might think, what, didn't they just miss one? So there is in the seashell mansion, it's possible to get 2 seashells, one when you have 5 and one when you have 10. So that's quite important to route for. And Node's sort of missing that button there. Lost a few seconds for
That's kind of a tricky one to get because you always feel so close to that hard hat beetle, so you might jump a little early trying to avoid getting hit. Oh, and Sagaz missing the chest turn. He's well known for going for that useless trick, but he missed it this time.
It's not useless from that side.
That's true.
It saves a frame from that side.
They have a frame of movement.
Imagine if he now draws.
Yeah, perfect tie.
Frame would have made
Now Sagaz facing off against Moldorm. He should make quick work of him, but it can give you some trouble if you're not careful. But both our runners well versed in Moldorm's patterns and whatnot, and they make quick work of him. And geez, still very, very close after the first dungeon. I think Node is only 2 seconds behind, if I saw correctly.
Yeah, about that. And now here's the thing. I wonder if they're going to be using the same route. I mean, often in these races with 100%, we see a lot of route divergence. In this one, they're in that like top tier, which I sort of feel they all use the same route at the moment.
Yeah, I imagine we'll see. I know Sagaz will definitely be using the most up-to-date world record route that he helped route himself. I'm pretty yeah, pretty much. And I'm 95% sure we're going to see Node using the exact same route. Previously, Node did stick to a few more minor safe strats while keeping the same route. But I think more recently he's been adapting to some of the more riskier world record strats, just minor time saves here and there. So I don't think we're going to see much divergence between the two of them.
I think if we do, it'll be that Sagaz does something that no one's seen before.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, are we potentially going to see Bolus color dungeon? That's a question.
Oh God, hopefully not. That's not a good change to 100%. Although I think before the race started, Sagaz was practicing D6, and he was working on a little minor optimization in the early hookshot room. So I think we're going to see that from Sagaz, but nothing crazier.
Still love that they skipped that heart.
Yeah, I mean, time save, right?
I guess it's more for status. Like you don't want to get the heart piece of shame.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned before, there's 3 different points where you could get it, and you want to at least be consistent with your splits. So most people get it last in their last visit to that screen. So to get it earlier would just kind of mess with your own split timings. Not that that's a major issue, but that's a consideration.
Also, it saves exactly 1 frame.
Yeah.
If you get.
Although 1 frame better than no frame.
Yeah. So we just saw them both go talk to the picture guy, and it's very important when doing this run that you go and talk to him at that precise point between D1 and D2 before you've got Bow Wow. He will not talk to you if you have Bow Wow, and there's a lot of pictures that you can easily miss if you don't get them at the right time.
So they've now rescued Bow Wow, and they're going to head into D2. But we're going to see them sort of clip through the gap between the tree and the rock here, because on the same frame that you open a text box, Link still has a little bit of movement. And by wall clipping a couple pixels into the tree to begin with, you can get that one extra little nudge with the text box and walk right through it. We'll see a bit more of that later in the run as well. But that was a pretty significant time save for them, so they don't have to actually walk all the way around through the woods and back through the swamp to get into the dungeon. And it looks like they both got pretty good luck getting into the dungeon. The only way to get into D2 at this point in the game is to have Bow Wow eat those flowers around the entrance, and that's almost entirely luck-based. There are small manipulations you can do, but largely there's nothing you can do but wait. And it seems that they both got pretty decent luck in that regard.
Well, there is another way. It involves digging up some items.
Yes,
we won't go into that.
It is possible. There is a sprite limit in this game, and it is possible to spawn so many sprites that one of the flowers will despawn. But it's doubtful that'll ever be used in runs unless we find some new glitch to make it easier, because I don't even know what the odds would be, like a 1 in a million chance of actually getting it to work and save time.
It's a task-only strat, basically.
Basically. And yeah, both runners using a little bit of a trick there to push the ghosts off the screen, which effectively kills them, at least that's how the game interprets it, to get the power bracelet a little quicker. And now Sagaz grabbing the boss key of this dungeon. A very silly puzzle that I'm sure stumped a lot of people on a casual playthrough, where you have to kill those 3 enemies in exactly the order you see them doing, otherwise the chest will not spawn.
I think my favourite thing about watching speedruns of this is seeing how broken early bow is in regards to mini bosses. Yeah, the game does not expect you to have the bow this early, even though you're able to steal items.
Yeah, and even in late game, it's one of the most powerful weapons. So to have it this early is really just makes a lot of bosses a lot easier. And yeah, chat mentioning they've noticed that Sagaz is a little low on arrows right now, so it seems likely he may have accidentally used a few too many, or, I mean, it's always possible he's trying out a new arrow route or something like that, but it'll be interesting to see how he plans for that going forward. I think losing a couple arrows isn't too big of a deal, but our arrow route is fairly tight in this run before we get the capacity upgrade.
So, you might have been watching and wondering what on earth happened with that boss. So, if you wall clip whilst you're picking up, whilst you've got the bottle picked up, when you throw it, it will actually, it doesn't keep, things when they're wall clipped don't really keep their momentum much. So, the bottle doesn't keep its momentum, so it thinks it's hitting the wall 3 times simultaneously, so it instantly breaks. And then the second part of that is just timing well with a bomb and amount of frames you have after hitting it to then be able to bomb arrow it.
Yeah, there's quite a bit going on with that quick kill, but we see both our runners... It's hard to explain when both runners get it so quickly like that, but they had no issues and they're now on their way. We see them coming over to this waterfall area where we're going to see D4 in a little while. They're coming here early simply to activate that portal. So you're going to see noadKajoo up here. He's going to just see that screen and immediately save and quit. And that's just so that when we return here later to unlock the dungeon, we're going to save a second or two by not having to backtrack. We can just warp directly to that portal.
I was going to play that off as we don't know why they're doing. I was going to play that off as they got lost.
Yeah, they both got lost and then just suddenly remembered, oh, that's right.
And then save and quit on exactly the same screen as each other.
Yeah. So this is our... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you can explain.
This is our first visit to the Mad Batter, and he's got 3 set shrines hidden around Coquitlam Island, and each time we visit him, he'll give us the option to well, he thinks he's punishing us, but to increase the capacity of one of our 3 depletable items, either the arrows, the bombs, or the powder. And we get to choose which one we want to upgrade when. So But unfortunately, he always asks you about the powder first. So runners have to be very careful that they say no to the powder upgrade, because the bombs and the arrows are far more useful, and the whole run is basically routed around the fact that we need to have a lot of bombs and a lot of arrows. So an accidental powder upgrade at a wrong point in the run could really set you back. And we see Sagaz here coming down, and there's another portal. So that's the sort of main hub portal closest to the village that we're going to see them traveling to and from a bit here, for example, when they go back to D4. And yeah, I can't get over just how close they still are 15 minutes into this run.
They're 3 screens apart.
Yeah.
Oh, no getting a bit trolled by Bow Wow there.
Oh, that's the worst, yeah.
So if an arrow, or in this case a bomb arrow, hits Bow Wow, it will actually collide with him.
Yeah, so even when he's following you, he still for some reason has collision on certain items, which is just a huge pain. And whenever you first transition on a screen, he's always right on top of Link's sprite. So if you don't wait just long enough for him to bounce away, or even if he bounces directly in your path sometimes, it can be an issue where you'll shoot the bomb arrow directly at Bow Wow.
Thankfully, we don't have him for the entire run.
No, unlike our main category, we do get rid of Bow Wow here.
Okay, so before they got that picture, actually no, I'll explain the seashell mention. So, this is the point where they've each got 5 seashells and they're going in to get the 6th seashell. Now, the mansion counts as a 2D section. And normally when you save and quit, you'll be returned to the previous entrance you entered. However, 2D overworld sections are exempt from this. So the Seashore Mansion, and also notably the Fisherman later on with the trade sequence. If you save and quit out of that, you'll be returned to the second last entrance you entered.
Yep, and so they use that to their advantage here to warp back to that telephone booth and save a little bit of time.
Do you want to explain roller scope?
Oh, jeez. So we see Node continually pausing and unpausing, and luckily the game makes this very simple. You simply have to hold the start button when you repause, and it'll automatically pause again. But what that does is it advances certain aspects of the game a single frame at a time. And by doing so, you can make sure that the exact moment that Link falls down the pit, you pause to prevent him from falling down the pit, and it'll actually push Link down so he's standing on the menu bar. And once you're in that state, you can simply hold down to transition to the screen below. And doing so skips the entire Canalet Castle 5 Golden Leaves side quest, and we can go directly to Dungeon 3 now.
So, Node actually getting an extremely bad Villa skip.
Yeah, that looked really long.
He started pausing way too early.
Yeah.
Also, if we see early Berkey from Sagaz, that's what he's going to be doing to do it. But again, that's if we see it.
Yeah, I hope not. Well, it might make it interesting, but I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
I mean, it might even it up if he messes it up.
Exactly.
Or if he gets too many buffers.
So, as these guys go through Dungeon 3 right now, we're seeing them kill a lot of enemies. Some mandatory, and some, like in Sagaz's case right there, optional. And this is all to manipulate a piece of power drop within this dungeon. Piece of power drops every so many kills throughout the game, and it'll give Link a knockback effect to his sword, and also double his sword damage. But because this is a save and quit category, and every save and quit resets your kill counts, this will be the only piece of power we see in the run. But it's quite important to get in D3 because it makes the boss kill far easier and quicker.
Have we explained super jumps at all?
I'm not sure if we have.
I don't think we have. I think this might be a good time. Because they just did a Dodongo skip. So, there is a trick in this game called super jump, which is when you click into a wall and you basically jump off it. Like the game thinks that you're sort of falling off of a ledge, like the kind of ledge you would fall off in the overworld, maybe.
Yeah, so every wall in a dungeon is actually a ledge you could technically jump off of, right? And by wall clipping into the wall, the game thinks your position is touching the wall, and by facing away from the wall, the game isn't sophisticated enough to know that you're not on the proper side of it, and you'll get an extended jump, as if you were jumping off of it. But what we see Node doing up here for his second, well, he's already done this once, he's going to do it a second time, is he actually does one of those jumps off the wall, does a spin slash to clink off of the Dodongo, and that sends him ricocheting at a 90-degree angle, allowing him to skip one key to get into that little alcove. So there's a lot going on with the skip like that, but it's really cool to see in action.
The amount of glitches in this game makes you wonder.
It's amazing.
It's pretty poorly coded in some places.
And as we saw Node right there, he got the quick kill on the boss with the extra damage from the piece of power on his sword. He was able to break the boss, damage him once, and then have the boss simply land on his sword, and that's it.
So now we see Sagaz out of D3. It's going to be what, 10, maybe 15 minutes before he actually enters another dungeon.
Definitely closer to 15 minutes. Yeah. This section between D3 and D4 is the biggest cleanup section in the run. This
is the collectathon part of the run.
Yeah.
Where we're going to see Saga. Well, by the end of it, we're going to see Sagaz with the boomerang. I think. Yeah. I don't know if he goes for level 2 sword that early as well.
No, you in this route, we'll see them get the level 2 sword after Dungeon 6 and before they enter Dungeon 5.
Alright. So Saga is getting the save and quit on Taran.
Yeah, and basically getting the honey for free.
I honestly don't really understand why that works. I understand how it works, I don't understand why it works.
Well, the thing is that both Taran and the honey are two separate objects for the game. So when you say yes to Taran, it sort of sets a flag for his object and then sets a flag for the other one as well. So when you save and quit and return, Taran's gone as if he'd already been chased off the screen by the bees, and the honey will drop off the tree as it's supposed to. So it lets them save that whole little cutscene with Taran.
So we see Sagaz and now Node going for their 10th seashell in the seashell mansion. Well, Node's getting his 10th now, but yeah, they're getting their 11th seashell mansion.
Yep, and this has all been recently carefully planned out. It used to be that we didn't get both of these rewards, and even longer ago, we didn't get any of the seashell rewards here. And so some of the odd routing, or what you might think seems like odd routing to get seashells early on, was really to maximize our exposure to getting these two reward seashells, so we can get the level 2 sword even earlier.
So they're trading the what are they trading again? The honeycomb. They're trading the honeycomb for the explosive pineapple. See what we mean about the explosive pineapple later. But why is it that they get the pineapple again, since they can bomb trigger stuff?
So the reason they need the pineapple is because that is part of the trigger for Marin to show up at the beach. We need Marin because there's 3 of the pictures that involve her that we can't get without her. And for whatever reason, I don't remember the exact triggers for her to show up on the beach, but I think it might involve a certain amount of dungeon completion. But the big one is that you have to have the pineapple in your inventory, because when you get the pineapple from Chef Bear, he tells you that you should go see what Marin is up to. So that's the only reason we do that part of the trade sequence.
I think I can confirm that it isn't dungeon linked. It's purely having the pineapple. But
Oh,
it's
is
the yeah, it's the spawning of Terran that's dungeon linked. But you can do that with bomb triggers.
Okay.
I mean, that's assuming the game mechanics work the same way as Rando, which I don't think that's been changed. So Sagaz missing a fish. Quite bad. Hope he gets this one. Well, I said that he led the first one on purpose. I should just clarify. So it's quicker than actually catching it again, and you'll see Node letting it go as well.
Yeah, so unfortunately we can't directly catch the big fish right away. We have to catch at least the one extra one before it. And if you're not careful, it is pretty easy to screw up and catch an extra fish if you're not familiar with it. And that can waste a lot of time.
So basically what they're getting there is there's a heart piece there, but that's why they do the fishing game.
Yeah, and it works out really well that heart piece in the route ends up being the fourth of a heart container, and by getting it there, we save the whole little heart container cutscene. So a little time save there as well. So this section has a lot of cleanup with regards to the photos. So we saw him get the Bow Wow photo, the Ulrira photo. He's going to be getting the 3 Marin photos soon. And we see Sagaz now coming back to D1 to get this kind of out of the way seashell.
This seashell is stupid.
Exactly, because who in a casual run is ever going to go back and bonk that tree?
But even in a speed run, it's so frustrating because it feels like you're going through all these screens just for one small thing.
Yeah.
Does that count as a nut grab? He didn't do it slide on.
Well, I think it's a sideways nut touch if we're getting specific with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because technically you can't nut grab without the bracelet. But now we have Sagaz going through the longest but also most adorable cutscene in the game, where Marin talks to Link about wanting to leave the island and liking seagulls.
Did you? No, I'm not doing it this time.
Do what? By the way, Curvone, did you know that the seagulls on this cutscene are RNG?
No, really?
Yeah.
I never knew that. So that's kind of a meme now.
But it is cool, just the silly little things that developers do, you know?
I once joked that if you play this game an infinite amount of times, the RNG patterns of those seagulls will write the entire works of Shakespeare. I mean, it's true.
Well, I guess.
So, Sagaz getting his second of the 3 Marin pictures. No going to get his as well. Noda's kind of caught up here. He really has. I mean, he was quite a bit behind, but he's making time up.
Yeah, he hasn't let the gap grow any wider, and I think you're right. I think he might be actually closing it a little bit.
Though, yeah, I guess these picture cutscenes do take a while, so they sort of warp it a bit.
Yeah. He's probably only 10-15 seconds behind, if I had to guess, not without looking at the timers. And to be honest, they're both playing extremely well. It's just Sagaz hasn't really made any even minor mistakes yet. I did see him fall into the heart piece of shame pit earlier on, but haven't noticed any major flubs from him yet. Yeah,
I mean, Node's made 1 or 2 small mistakes here and there, but the biggest thing was filler skip for him.
Yeah, that really widened the gap.
Because each buffer is worth 2 seconds. In fact, each menu is worth 2 seconds. So they've got a very specific menu route as well, and you'll see it from here with Sagaz. He's actually going to bomb trigger the walrus instead of going to talk to the walrus with Marin. This actually saves us, what, 1 or 2 menus, which is like 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah, so it saves a menu or 2, which is faster, and it's also a bit faster too, because Marin being right at the edge of the screen, she'll leave the screen quicker and you can carry on your way sooner. So we'll actually see the rabbit kind of vanish early because the cutscene's over when Marin leaves the screen. But yeah, it's funny because we used to just walk over and talk to the walrus because this is the one category where we actually have Marin with us. But it turned out that bomb triggering was still faster.
It's faster because of what Sagaz is doing here. Where he's able to actually bomb trigger the heart piece.
Yeah. And that would be a pretty annoying heart piece to get otherwise.
Yeah, you'd have to do some quite dumb stuff, or get the hook shot.
Yeah. And
actually, I guess
here,
you could do that with boots.
Yeah. And we see here there's a big sand pit, and if you just stand around for a little while, you'll get a key.
Yeah. The game's nice like that. Like, they could have put something for you to kill or something.
I know, that would have been
just
a perfect spot for a mini-boss of some sort, maybe like a big sandworm or something, but instead they just give you the key.
I mean, what if they put La Mola there from A Link to the Past? I think that would be a good one.
Well, that's interesting too, because Lanmol is a sand boss too, so that would fit perfectly.
But no, they just spawn the key when you enter it.
Yeah, it really wasted opportunity.
I almost feel like we shouldn't even explain why.
I thought we did a pretty good job of explaining it.
So, yeah, I guess, okay, in case anyone's confused, yes, there is La Mola there. If you enter the room and fire 2 arrows immediately, his sprite is basically on the screen already. It is always in the same place until he starts moving, so if you fire 2 arrows straight away, you kill him before he even spawns.
Yeah, there's a few instances of that in the game where an enemy's or a boss's hitbox will be active before the fight technically is supposed to start. And you know, for a casual player, they'd have no idea of knowing, but we definitely take advantage of that in a speedrun. We'll see something similar with the D6 boss coming up. And now both of them are going to be getting their first song on the ocarina from Marin. A nice little duet. But this is also now the point in the game where the ocarina becomes the most obnoxious item in their inventory. Up until now, it's just been a normal item, but now that they have songs at their disposal, whenever they hover over the ocarina in their inventory, a little sub-menu will open that'll allow them to pick which of the 3 songs they want to play. And because in the menu you have full cardinal control, that submenu requires left and right movement, so if you accidentally cursor over top of the ocarina, you're limited to simply up and down to get off of it, and there's also a certain amount of lag involved with that little submenu opening and closing, and long story short, it's just awful.
I always say the ocarina in the menu has invincibility frames.
Well, this is kind of what it feels like.
It kind of is like that.
So we'll see our runners try to put the ocarina as far away as they can in their menu and try to touch it as little as possible.
Well, they use it twice in the run.
Yeah, so we will see them use it twice, but they'll only use 1 song of the 3.
Yeah. The only song you ever need.
Yeah.
You've got bombs to play other instruments.
Exactly. So now we've seen them, they finished the cleanup around Mabe Village, they've finished all the cleanup around Animal Village, they've unlocked D4, so they're just going to climb the mountain. But before entering D4, we've added to the route, they're going to do a little Jesus jump here to skip off the top of the water, and get some stuff up at the top of the mountain here that they would normally leave till later. We're going to see them get an early seashell up here, as well as get a photo of the photographer mouse dying.
Quite morbid, but he'll come back later as a ghost.
Yeah, so it's okay.
I don't think Sagaz...
Butt sword, a very important trick.
I don't... I keep forgetting that's a thing. I don't think Sagaz... Yeah, I don't think Sagaz is going to do early bird key, because he entered the entrance before he came up. Yeah, he's not doing it.
I think he was pretty sure going into this that he wasn't willing to risk it.
That's if he was going to do it. That's the point in which he would do it. He would do that coming back, I'd assume.
And now we've got them going through D4. So this is the dungeon where they're going to get the flippers, which is going to open up a lot going forward. And we kind of break it open. I don't think we even do half of what the dungeon really has to offer. We see that cross pit that Sagaz just jumped over. See, and he just jumps straight up. So normally the game would expect you to get a couple more keys, loop all the way around, and jump from bottom to top to get to where he went. But it turns out it's pretty easy to simply dash from the side and jump up. So that allows us to skip a key early on. And now what we're going to see is Sagaz is going to be entering the flipper room from sort of the other side. You're supposed to kill the mini-boss of the dungeon before getting to the flippers. But he was able to get across this pond that Node is now facing by Jesus jumping across it. So actually, I don't think we've quite explained Jesus jumping, but it's similar to Villa Skip in that you buffer your pauses until the frame that you see Link splash on the water, and then when you unpause, you have a single frame of input where you can either move to transition across a screen or buffer a jump to cross the water.
Oh no, Sagaz is choking this dungeon.
Yeah, so Sagaz wants to do a super jump to get up on top of that ledge where the boss key is going to be to skip an underground section. He's going for what should be quicker but much more difficult setup.
This is kind of his own setup as well.
He's usually very good at it, but ooh,
he went out of bounds there.
He didn't go out of bounds, but he almost did.
Yeah,
if he transitioned, it would have been out of bounds.
Yeah, he'll be fine on that. He didn't gain anything.
So we see him now picking up the 2 pots like Node did, and then simply super jumping across, which is far easier. The idea is you don't want to use those 2 extra menus, so Sagaz went for the harder strat, but he tried so many times, and it cost a lot of time.
So much so that Node is now ahead.
Yeah, and he missed the quick dive into the boss as well, so I'm not sure if he might be a little rattled from the failures there.
Yeah,
and
he's also out of arrows. Yeah, this could be bad for him.
Well, it shouldn't be the end of the world. The only thing you'd really need an arrow for at this point is to blow up the entrance to the boomerang cave. So he'll have to wait a couple seconds for a bomb to blow up instead of using a bomb arrow. But that shouldn't be the end of the world.
Can he not get the upgrade early?
Which upgrade?
The upgrade on the way to the beach.
He could, but it would cost too much time in the end. I think it's easier to get the boomerang and back out, and then do the seashell cleanup along the bottom of the bay.
I guess.
And now they're both getting the best song, Mambo's Mambo. So Omni asks in chat how they one-shot the angler boss, and it wasn't a one-shot. What they did is they charged their sword as they were entering the water, released the spin slash as they were menuing, and then they only needed 2 more bomb arrows to do damage. So it happened very quickly, but it still took 3 hits to kill him. Of course, each one of those damages being much more than a single sword slash, so it goes very fast.
So, Sprasta, did you ever know there was a heart piece here as a kid?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't know how much I may have spoiled myself as a kid, like looking up guides and stuff.
So this one is like, that's such an easy one to just not be able to find.
Well, to be honest, I think that one's actually kind of fair to find, because if you fall down the pit from D7, you're accidentally swimming, you dive around. To be honest, I think it's one of those things where there's no hint to it in the game, but if you're one of those inquisitive players that is always looking for secrets, always assumes that there's something hidden, you are likely to find it.
There's one a bit later, which I don't think even the most inquisitive players will find.
Yeah, we'll make sure to point that out to you guys. It's a doozy.
So we're seeing the mouse has actually returned. The picture guy, he's the ghost following us. might not be canon, but we're going to go with it.
We'll roll with it.
So they're actually doing a bomb trigger because apparently there's a pit on the side of this wall.
Yeah, so the game isn't too careful about tile properties and stuff, especially in these 2D sections. So they're able to drop bombs into that pillar because the pillar acts as a pit.
So they have basically exploded a pineapple into a fishing rod and then continued the trade sequence there.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the last stages of the trade sequence. Normally they would have had done a ton of trading from start to finish, but by bomb triggering, the fisherman just gives you the bra like you're supposed to. And then we take it to the mermaid, get the scale, and then you normally need the hook shot to cross this gap that Node just crossed in order to get to this statue.
First try.
But there's a number of ways to get yourself into the right position. We're going to see both these guys bumping off the Zora, like we just saw Sagaz do, and it puts you in perfect... Oh, he messes it up.
Yeah.
But it puts you in perfect position to super jump across the gap. Thus, what this allows us to do is getting the magnifying lens lets us get the boomerang, and by having the boomerang before Dungeon 5, it allows us to get the hook shot extremely early into the dungeon, which lets us skip probably a minute and a half of dungeon time. And Sagaz having a really rough time here with the super jump. He should be able to... Yeah, he was able to dash out of that last one, but...
This is one of the biggest new techs of the run, and it's a big difference maker. So
Huge
this is...
save.
Yeah, this is what we call early magnifying lens, and it is very heavily tied with early hook shot later on.
To be honest, I'm a little surprised that Sagaz had so much trouble with that. To be honest,
yeah,
it's a very daunting skip for new runners, but with the experience that Node and Sagaz have, I'm a little surprised to see him struggle that much with it. He might still be feeling a bit of nerves from the D4 trouble, I'm not sure.
Usually Sagaz is one of the better players at that of the community, maybe even the best.
And of course, we've seen him doing very well in this run up to this point, so yeah, it's a little surprising.
I mean, the thing is, like, when you make mistakes in games, it's quite easy to get a bit tilted. And that might be happening to Sagaz right now. Yeah,
it happens to the best of us. It's hard to keep composure when you do something wrong that you know you've done right a million times.
And especially when you're against an opponent which you know is going to capitalize.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. Node has had some minor mistakes, but nothing major that would send him on tilt. So he's keeping it very well together and just trucking on. So we see Node now getting the boomerang from the Gorilla there. And the Gorilla will take not necessarily any item from Link, but you can give him the bracelet, the feather, etc. But we're going to give him the shovel, because at this point in the game, we no longer need the shovel. We've dug up everything we need to dig up, and we don't need it again.
Actually, you can't give him the bracelet. You can only give him non-incremental and non-consumable items.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
The feather, boots, shovel, fire rod, and hookshot, I think, are the only ones.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, so we give him the shovel because it's by far the most useless of those items. So we see Node wrapping around the bottom of the bay there. He grabbed a couple extra seashells, and now he's heading through this long path to our second upgrade shrine with the Mad Batter. And this time, last time he upgraded the bombs, this time he's once again going to be careful to not upgrade the powder. He wants to upgrade the arrows. As you see there, he's at 0 arrows after everything up to this point, so he really needs a refill.
So he's going to Mambo after this as well.
Yep, so we see him equip the Ocarina.
So the reason why we don't see Mambo used in dungeons, so the way Mambo works is if you use it also in the overworld or in one of these cave sections, it's going to return you to here, like this pond here. If you're in a dungeon, it's going to return you to the start of the dungeon. So whilst you're in the dungeon, it's honestly just quicker to save and quit in all situations in the speedrun.
Yeah, it's a fun casual mechanic, but it's slower, unfortunately.
I mean, the advantage with casual is that if you save and quit, switch blocks reset. If you Mambo, they don't reset.
That's true.
But I guess it's not really got much relevance in any of the speedruns.
No, we've broken the dungeons wide open, and it's not really relevant at this point.
I mean, if there's a switch block, we'll find a super jump for it.
Yeah. So we see Node here taking his ghost friend back home and getting a photo with him.
Yeah.
Apparently him pestering us for the past 10 minutes constitutes a friendship.
It's quite interesting, that photo, because that's the mouse that fell off the bridge and died. You take him to his grave, and then the mouse takes a picture of himself next to his grave.
Well, maybe it's his brother. Maybe his brother stepped up and took over the family business. So Node here, he took a shortcut through the graveyard there to grab a heart piece, and now he's pushing these headstones in a certain order to unlock what we call Dungeon 0. It's the color dungeon. It's a bonus dungeon that was added specifically in the DX remake. Required by 100% rules. The reward for beating this dungeon is a tunic upgrade. We're going to see either the red tunic or the blue tunic, where the red tunic is the effect of the piece of power, where you have knockback on your sword and double damage, whereas the blue tunic is essentially the Guardian A-Cord ability, where you take half as much damage from enemies. And we should see both runners here grabbing the red tunic. It's not too much faster than the blue tunic, but neither one of them is going to feel the need for safety, I don't think.
You took blue tunic in your race, didn't you?
I did, yeah. The thing is, with the new route, the blue tunic doesn't really lose too much time, and there's a number of benefits, mostly defensive, but we're going to see later on in Dungeon 5, the red tunic makes the dungeon boss a good deal more difficult than if you had the green or blue tunic. But we'll talk about that then.
We wanted you in your race to win that race after you got the blue tunic, just to prove that
Just
blue
for the sake of
tunic
it.
was. Yeah, it's like if you won with blue tunic, it was clearly the blue tunic that was the reason that you won.
Yeah. Well, there's still time in the tournament. We'll see.
Yep.
But we just saw Sagaz do it, and Node did it as well. He blew up a secret wall near the beginning of the dungeon and grabbed a bunch of rupees in that room. We see Node here. He grabbed the boss key, he saved and quit to go back to the dungeon, but he also did a hard reset of his console. That's because he wants to go to that rupee room again. For whatever reason, like a lot of the things they added in the remake, it doesn't quite make sense. And instead of the state of this room being tied to your specific save file in SRAM, it's tied to just a byte in general RAM. So if you save and quit and go back to the beginning of this or load another file or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's still going to be empty. But by resetting the console completely, it flushes the RAM and the rupees respawn. So just a fun little quirk, but we use it to our advantage because we see now Node has just over 300 rupees, which we're now going to need to spend to get our final song, which we'll see them get immediately after this dungeon.
It's also the best song.
Some people have an illness and they believe that it's the best song, but I can tell you that it is not. But I'll let the audience judge for themselves. Node completing what we call the bingo room there, where you have to put the 4 colored enemies into the holes like a toddler's toy. And it can be a little more troublesome than you might expect at times, but pretty good.
This boss is just terrible.
It's a terrible boss. There's a knockback effect when you attack him, which might make sense with the sword, but even when you attack with the bow and arrows, it still applies a knockback effect to Link, which can really throw off your position. He spawns a whole bunch of projectiles that block your shots, and every time he reaches a certain stage in his little color scheme, he opens a text box to tell you about it, which is just obnoxious.
It's just so annoying. It makes the fight much harder.
Exactly. I mean, the gimmick of that boss is that he doesn't have a set amount of health. If you let the fight go on too long, his color will revert back closer to blue, and you'll have to damage him again to progress. But we see, if you just get in his face and spam arrows, he's no problem at all. We do see Sagaz grabbing a safety fairy there from the boss to heal up, because otherwise, there's no heart container in this dungeon, you wouldn't get a free refill. And both runners have grabbed the red tunic for the extra offense. Although the reason that the red tunic isn't quite as beneficial, or quite as necessary as it used to be, is because we get the level 2 sword so much earlier in the run than we used to. And in a lot of cases, the level 2 sword obsoletes the damage of the red tunic.
I think the other thing that a lot of people don't sort of realize is that if you have red tunic, it also simulates the level 2 bracelet, which picks things up quicker. And
yeah, which is a really interesting mechanic. It saves a significant amount of time.
I feel that's more advantageous than the damage at this point.
Yeah, possibly. But we see both runners making their way through the signpost maze. Kind of a fun idea. They have to follow the directions from the sign to the next sign in the sequence. If they speak to the wrong sign, or God forbid they speak to the same sign twice in a row, any mistake will reset the maze completely, and they have to start back at the beginning.
Everyone's done it before.
Oh, everyone's done it. It's awful, and you just feel terrible. It's such a huge time loss. So everyone's always very careful to speak to a sign once. That's it. Carry on. And your reward is opening a staircase to Mamu's secret recording studio here, and for the small price of 300 rupees, he'll sing you his unreleased single.
The reason why it's unreleased. It's just too good. It's just too good.
It's just too good, yeah.
Best song in the entire game.
Well, I'll agree there's a reason it's unreleased, but I'm not sure if I'll agree on that reason.
Okay, well, let's be honest. I think everyone's in agreement. Telltale Heights is the best song.
Telltale Heights is definitely one of the best songs. But anyway, so Node has got his third and final ocarina song. This is a song that we would normally use to revive the Flying Rooster, which we, in theory, need to get the bird key to enter D7. We're going to see coming up that that's not the case. And you would also use that song to awaken the turtle head so that you can get into D8. And once again, we'll find out that that's not the case.
Oh god, where's Node going?
Node is going to be grabbing, as we mentioned earlier, this is the most out of the way, the hardest to find, the silliest heart piece in the game. You have to swim all the way around the outside of the Canalet Castle moat, and then dive in a certain spot, and there's a heart piece just hidden under there.
There is not a thing in the entire game that gives you any indication that there's something there.
No. Or if there is, I don't remember it. But I think, once again, if you're really inquisitive and you're one of those kids that wanted to go around and find everything, look at every tile, whatever, you'd probably find it, but so many people just playing through the game, there's no way they would ever think to come here. And even in the speedrun, there's never a way to make it sort of on the way. It's always a detour, and we just get it at this point because we can save and quit to go back to the portal because we want to carry on to Animal Village. Because luckily those portals do set your save and quit position.
It's a shame you can't swim underneath the drawbridge.
I know.
It'd be so much quicker.
Well, similar to the 2D section, entering D5 or the fisherman section, they could have easily put like an underwater section to kind of swim under the drawbridge, but
yeah,
that's a shame. So we see both runners. They go to Animal Village. They're very careful while they're there to not bypass getting the Zora photo. It's required for 100%, but it's also very easy to miss. You're just going through Animal Village. You might just carry on your way. But we see both of our runners remembering it, and then immediately heading up to what we call the Armos Maze. The game refers to it as the Southern Face Shrine. They're getting their last, I think it's their last seashell here in the maze in that little hidden cave under a knight. And we see now Node coming up to the shrine itself, where he's going to fight the Armos Knight to get the Dungeon 6 key. And not a very difficult boss. Well, actually, he is fairly difficult casually, but we see that the knockback effect from the red tunic makes him a piece of cake. You can just kind of bully him into the corner, and he's no problem.
With the normal level 1 sword and a red tunic, you actually can't directly hit him with a sword. You have to hit him with a spin slash. But with the red tunic, yeah.
Sorry,
with the red tunic or the level 2 sword, you can actually damage him with just slashing at him.
Yeah, which is interesting because he doesn't take extra damage from the red tunic, but it kind of the way the game handles damage types. The increased damage type against Armos turns a clink into a normal hit, rather than a normal hit into a double hit, if that makes sense. So for example, if you were to fight this guy with the green or the blue tunics, you would either have to do maybe spin slashes or use the boots. It's too bad we don't actually get the level 2 sword before the Armos fight, because it really makes him a piece of cake. Now they're both taking this cave to Dungeon 6, just going to unlock it. Unfortunately, we do have to watch this little cutscene to open the dungeon. If we had Bow Wow with us, Bow Wow can actually eat this dungeon cutscene to get in quicker, but we obviously need to return him in 100%. So Node, still maintaining a significant lead here at this point in the game. We're very far into the run, and Sagaz is keeping up the pressure, but Node's not letting up either.
If both of them, if neither of them had any issues, like no reverse skip issue or no ugly magnifying lens issue, they were probably finished within seconds of each other. Yeah.
Well, and actually, like you said at the very beginning of the run, it did. The early magnifying lens and stuff did end up coming into play.
There are still chances for Sagaz to make this up. He would need Node to have a bad early hook shot or a bad rooster skip.
Yeah. Although, I mean, if we do look at them, I think Node is at a comfortable health. Sagaz could maybe use a little more. I don't expect either one of these to take too much damage, but just a couple of them have made a couple silly mistakes, taken a couple bad hits, and with the red tunic, without the extra defense, your health can disappear very quickly in these later dungeons. So they'll have to keep an eye on their health.
I remember back in Green Tunic's first race, I said, blue tunic's better. And he dies. He dies, and he doesn't go sub 126 with his PB as a result.
Yeah.
And it does make a difference sometimes.
So, we're going to break this dungeon wide open as well. We see Node using a super jump to get up to this section and skip a key to get the boss key very early. And he's going to do a second super jump here. There's only a 3 pixel window to get that, and he gets it no problem. To come back this way, and this is kind of the reverse direction that the game expects you to take through the dungeon. And he's going to use this to skip yet another key and get to the boss very soon. So casually, this could be one of the longer dungeons, but we beat it in 2.5 minutes, no problem.
Horus giving us some measurements of time, but he didn't give us any measurements of time in horse heads.
Skill heads, you mean?
Oh my god!
And, oh my god! No,
he's
having
not
a really
very
rough
skilled
time
today.
So the thing is, there's no trick to those horse heads. Each horse head has a 50-50 chance of flipping upright or falling over. So the two of them together, you have a 25% chance each cycle of getting the doors unlocked. And so, 4 tries on average. I'm not really sure what Node got there, but it was definitely far worse than 4.
I want to say it was over 10. But Sagaz also having bad, yeah.
Sagaz having bad luck, but not nearly as bad that Node had.
Neither of them have Bamboo's cart. This is the problem.
Yeah, we need to unlock the secrets of Bamboo's cart.
Bamboo has a cart where he always gets first try horse head.
Yeah, definitely some voodoo going on there. And actually, it happened so quick, we missed it, but Node just taking care of the D6 boss facade here. Well, we're going to see Sagaz coming up and doing it now. Even before the boss spawns, he's going to lay 3 bombs, and each of those bombs is going to do damage to the boss. Similar to Lanmolas, the hitbox is entirely active and capable of taking damage before the boss talks to you and before the pots start flying. So then after that, it only takes an additional 2 bombs, and the boss is done no problem. He can be a fairly challenging boss casually if you don't know this, because everything starts really flying around at you, it can get really hectic, but we get the boss finished before any of that really ramps up.
So no getting in our cut scene skip?
Yep. So he did an
There's another
unbuffered bomb
bomb
trigger
trigger.
to make sure that you still have to talk to the owl, but it keeps the owl from flying in and flying out. Saves a couple seconds.
So Node now going to get the level 2 sword. He's going to save and quit off this, isn't he?
Nope. Nope. He's gonna carry right on to Dungeon 5.
But
So-
yeah, this is another place you could save and quit off. Like, there's a lot of runners that kind of do this last, and they'll save and quit off it.
Yeah, so in the old route where we did Dungeon 6 last, the way the seashells worked out, you would exit the cave beside D6, come get the sword, and then just save and quit back to it, which was... It was honestly a really cool bit of routing. It's a shame we don't see something like that in this run, but it is so nice to get the level 2 sword this early.
So at this point, the only advantage of the red tunic is picking up pots. Actually, there's not even that advantage now because I have level 2 bracelets, so... At this point, blue tunic might be quick over, I feel.
And I'll be sure to mention it to you guys when they come up to the boss here. But I mean, and we'll see how well they do. It's still possible to do a good boss fight with the red tunic. It just really shrinks your window. It makes it much more difficult.
So, as we see a node entering 5, this is a very important dungeon in this kind of race. In a close race like this, a lot can change in this. So, Node is about to try a trick called early hook shot, and this is when he tries to use the boomerang to grab a key that spawned in this room. But he wants to grab it so that he actually collects the key in the next room, because the next room transfers small keys into hook shots.
Ooh, and he just misses it.
Yep.
So there's nothing he could have done about that. It's purely RNG, but it's roughly a 50-50 chance. So he's just got to keep trying again, and hopefully he beats the average. So we see there. So that room is the room where normally you defeat Master Stalfos for the 4th and final time, and he rewards you, or you're rewarded with the hookshot. The way the game handles this is Master Stalfos simply gives you a small key, and the game has a unique code specifically for that room that makes the key instead look like and give you the hookshot. So as Pravone was saying, we can use the boomerang to kind of drag the key in behind us, and 50-50 chance we collect it after we've transitioned. And that's how we get the hookshot early. So we're going to skip a ton of this dungeon. He just has to defeat Master Stalfos here to get through the room. But we're going to see him get the boss key and then go directly to the boss.
Incidentally, the whole thing with the small keys, if you kill Master Stalfos in any of the preceding rooms by hitting him 4 times with bombs, he drops small keys in those rooms. So yeah, that's how we know he drops a small key, and then it's changed into a hookshot.
Yeah, it's actually possible to out DPS the boss and kill him before he can escape, which you think would keep him from showing up again, but just a little glitch in the game. And unfortunately, getting one of those unintended keys doesn't actually help in any way, which is a shame. Nope. There's no way to route them in.
So we see both of them getting early hookshot. So what can happen with early hookshot? The most costly thing that could happen is that you pick up the key by accident, and then you can't do the trick anymore, so you have to do the dungeon normally.
And as chat mentions, both of them seem to have gotten second try early hookshot. So as we mentioned, it's a 50-50 chance, there's nothing they can do about it, but each additional attempt is going to cost them, 10 to 15 seconds each, which, with a gap this small, could have really mattered if, Sagaz had gotten a first try early hookshot, or even third, to widen the gap. So we see them getting through that trick largely unscathed with regards to each other.
So this is the boss where Red Tunic is quite bad, because Red Tunic with the knockback provides invincibility frames to enemies, and this boss has a very tight window to land 4 hits on to 2-cycle. So with Red Tunic, most often people can't 2-cycle it, they have to 2-cycle, like we're seeing Node do now.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but it's specifically the knockback effect that the Red Tunic gives your sword. Doesn't knock the boss back, but the boss sort of gets extra invincibility frames as if he did get knocked back, which, if you were fighting him with the green or blue tunic, you could get hits in much, much more frequently. In fact, without the red tunic, it's possible to get 5 hits per cycle relatively easily. But yeah, no trouble for either of them.
Nope.
Because the thing is, the first 2 cycles on that boss are largely telegraphed. You can stand in a neutral position and react to the RNG pretty easily. But once you get to 3rd, 4th cycle, which you tend to with the red tunic, it's easy for things to get out of hand. But yeah, neither one of them really seeing the disadvantage there, getting through that really well. And yeah, for those asking, the background for the layout here, it is artwork of the island, and if I'm correct, I think it's from the official Nintendo guide. I think it's on the inside cover.
It's pretty nice artwork.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is one of those games too where I love all the fan art and the artwork and stuff because the whole setting of the game is just so cool and interesting, you know?
Well, it's set on an island that's presumably in the middle of, like, somewhere equivalent to, like, the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, just out there with a giant egg on top. So we see on their second time through this cave, they're going to get that heart piece. And they're going to get it by bomb triggering it. We could actually get it the intended way on the way to Dungeon 8, but it still ends up being faster to simply take a moment and bomb trigger it on our way there.
I love that you can bomb trigger.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Sagaz having trouble.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He's doing it sideways. So a bomb trigger will only work if you're facing up or down.
Yeah, and you specifically need to transition. What is he doing?
Yeah.
Well, he did get it, so I guess
he got it because he moved down as he was transitioning.
Yeah, that was odd. I'm not really sure what he was doing there.
So no going for Rooster Skip. Well, he's using a buffer method, so normally we would need the rooster for this, but as you can probably guess from the name, we decide to skip the rooster because we can do what's called hookshot jumping. So when you're pulling back the hookshot, there is a frame which you can actually buffer into, or do it unbuffered. I wonder if Saga's going to do it unbuffered at this point. Where you're able to use the feather to jump out of it. Let's see what Sagaz does.
Sagaz will be going unbuffered, I'm pretty sure, unless he gets in trouble.
He falls
yeah,
out.
he had shifted. So between each attempt on the hookshot, you have a little movement on the pits, and each pit is a tile, and you're kind of safe on the edges. But unfortunately, between his 2 attempts there, he moved too far left, such that when he did get his jump, he landed right on the center of a pit and instantly fell. He couldn't get a hookshot off.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. If you land at the wrong point, you just fall.
Yeah.
So,
double firsties on the second attempt, though. Yeah, there's some redemption for him.
So, he loses somewhere in the region of 30 seconds for missing it first time.
Yeah,
this is
I mean, maybe more like 25.
Trick.
Maybe more like 25 because it was a very early failure for him. That's a significant time loss, unfortunately.
The key thing for this race is that Node got it first try. So that's put a lot of distance between them.
Yeah, and Node, in fact, Node, what we saw him do is he buffered with the pause menu to get that exact frame where he knew he could jump. And he got them very quickly. At least the second buffer was very quick, so he probably only lost 10 seconds to a perfect rooster skip. Which, in his mind at least, and I tend to agree in a race setting, you want to go for consistency, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't be saying that, I suppose, if Sagaz did get rooster skip first try, but at least this time it's worked out for Node.
So, there is still a chance that Sagaz can catch up. There's always a chance. There's Aghanim. There's Aghanim at the end of this game, so there's
so what is it? 16 blue balls behind? 10 blue balls behind?
It's less than that. Blue balls are 8 seconds.
Oh, 8 seconds.
I want to say it's like maybe like 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's possible.
So we didn't quite cover it, but well, we'll cover it with Sagaz here. He's going to come up the right side here, kind of sequence break with that boomerang, and get the level 2 shield, which we need because it's an item, it's 100%, we want to get it, we're never going to use it, and we'll point out the part, there's only one spot in the game where you're supposed to use it, and we don't even use it there. But now we're going to see Sagaz continuing on. He's got the bombs equipped, and by dropping 2 very quick bombs, like frames apart into the pit consecutively, he's going to bomb trigger, and that's all he needs to do to drop these pillars, and he is doing a great job of it. Very, very quick.
What I find funny about the level 2 shield is that normally in every dungeon in this game you need the dungeon item to get to the boss or do the boss. In this one you kind of don't. You could totally miss that shield.
Well, aren't you supposed to need the shield to block the feather attack?
I guess. I think you can do that with the level 1 shield if you're good with positioning.
But as we see from Node,
I'll have to try that out.
the shield is very not required, and we just fought that fight in a way that Nintendo probably never expected. Because there's a weird property whereby typically you're not supposed to be able to shoot. The hookshot should clink on the top, the left, the right, the bottom of the screen. But for whatever reason, if you save and quit at any point during your playthrough, you can actually hook shot off the screen downward, and we saw him do that there. He was able to hit the Evil Eagle once with his sword, and Evil Eagle just kind of flies up and off the screen. But his beak was still vertically in line with Link, so by shooting the hookshot down and kind of wrapping its position around, he was able to just kind of stun lock the boss and do damage to him off screen. And we see Sagaz getting it easily as well. And we just quick kill the boss like it's no problem.
It's like the easiest quick kill in history.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I actually, watching both their screens, I missed each of their Goomba surfs.
Same.
So I'm not even sure. I assume Node went for Goomba Surf. I'm not sure if he did the P-Hat Super Jump. Possibly. I'm sure chat noticed.
Well, yeah. I think Sagaz did Goomba Surf. I don't know if he got first or second try. But
Sagaz will always go for the world record strats.
Yeah, I don't think there was really much time difference between the two.
No.
Yeah, third try Goomba
crazy.
Surf. That's about the same as what I'd imagine Node did.
Okay, so chat's saying that Node did go for the P-Hat Super Jump, got it first try, which once again, it's one of those race safety things, perhaps. Sagaz getting it third try, getting Goomba Surf third try, did in fact save him time over going for the P-Hat Super Jump, but only by maybe a couple seconds.
Also, yeah, Goomba Surf is RNG as well, whilst the P-Hat hit isn't.
It's consistent to your ability, yeah. And we see Sagaz skipping Marin on the bridge there. Normally, if you hookshot across the bridge, you're kind of forced to save her, and it's a long cutscene talking to her, talking to Terran, talking to the owl, and it wastes like a minute. It's terrible. So instead, we kind of buffer the boots during her text there and just hop right past her. So sorry, Marin.
Yeah, the game developers are like, we're gonna have you wait for the cutscene of Terran walking on. You're gonna have cutscenes from 2 different characters, but that's not enough. We'll give you an owl as well.
Yeah.
So we see Sagaz collecting his 3rd and final item upgrade, which will be the powder.
Yeah, he's totally safe to get the powder now. It's not going to screw anything up at this point. And Node, he just walked right through the turtle head to get into D8. And we also saw him bomb triggered as well. So as we mentioned before, he has the song, he has the ocarina, he didn't want to use them. It's much faster to simply bomb trigger it. And he was able to walk through the turtle mini-boss simply because in that first section where he kind of sticks his head out of the doorway, his hitbox doesn't exist yet. You can just walk right through him, which is a silly oversight, but we take advantage.
The turtle is the opposite to La Mola.
Yeah. All bark, no bite. Node making quick work of Blano here. This is
Not
where
skipping.
getting the early level 2 sword saves quite a bit of time over some of our older routes, where mini bosses are dying in 2 hits instead of 4. So absolutely no trouble from Blano. Getting the magic rod and saving and quitting. Little bit of a handshake between these guys, even though Node's a save and quit ahead. So Node is going to do sort of a Jesus jump here. He's going to buffer until he sees the splash, and then by transitioning at the same time that he buffers his sword, he can consistently bypass the check that it's in fact lava, not water. So
Yeah, for some reason the sword does that.
yeah, I'm not sure. I think something about the sword makes the subpixels consistent, but basically the game's physics treat the lava as similar to the water, but the check for flippers happens earlier than the check for is it lava or not. So we can transition before it detects that it's lava. Very similar to fake flippers in A Link to the Past, actually, but for lava.
Oh, there are definitely subpixels in this game, and
Oh
they're
yeah,
annoying.
subpixels are a very real thing that we very much have to manipulate in certain places.
As much as the majority of our community tries to meme out of existence, they are real.
Although it don't usually matter for too many things, especially in that case. You could roll the odds on your subpixels and not equip the sword, but when it's that easy to do, you might as well.
Hmm.
Sagaz looks like he had a little trouble from cue ball there, but cleaned it up.
Yeah, the sound's a bit out of sync.
And we see Node taking care of Hothead there. The most awful boss in this game to fight, especially in a speedrun. Because when you hit him out of the lava, he's got a ton of iframes during which he cannot be damaged. So it either takes very, very precise timing or very, very good mashing to get in the max amount of damage to him per cycle that you can. He's technically an easy boss in that there's not a whole lot of challenge to him, but he hits like a truck. If you've got the red or the green tunic, each hit from him in any way is going to do 4 hearts of damage. And to do it fast is just very difficult as well.
No, that's better we switch to Sagaz's audio.
But with Hothead done, we're going to see both runners heading off to the egg for the final boss fight. And I missed Node, but we see Sagaz getting Wang Boys, and for whatever reason, staying for a very long time on that text box.
I think that doesn't actually lose time. I don't think, because there's an inbuilt delay before it actually starts the instrument thing.
Oh, that's true. It probably waits for the music to end.
Yeah. So that's why you can sort of leave that text box on.
Well, and he may have been just posting Wang Boys in his chat, so we can give him time for that.
Yeah. Node won't.
Unfortunately, with Node's desync, we're going to miss his Koholint Anthem, but we'll be able to catch Sagaz's.
Yeah, we'll get Sagaz.
Definitely the pinnacle of the game for me playing as a kid, having collected all the instruments, finally getting to hear them all play together.
If Koholint Island had a football team in the World Cup, then this would be their national anthem that is played.
Definitely. 8-bit as well.
8-bit, yeah, brilliant. So much saluting in chat there. So we missed a quick call of the blob on Node's screen. So he's actually fighting Aghanim now. I guess we can explain the blob in a second. He's fighting Aghanim now. Now Aghanim requires 4 yellow hits to kill. The first 2 that he does are guaranteed yellow hits. The next 2 are a 50-50 chance of blue balls or yellow balls. And unlike A Link to the Past, the blue balls are not capped, so he could get infinite.
We've yet to see infinity happen, but we're always hold out hope.
well, yeah, we've yet to see infinity happen. Yeah. It's still going on.
It always ends at some point. I don't know why.
It's still happening.
So both runners, I missed Node, but Sagaz we see, by mashing the bombs really quickly as he enters the fight, he's able to skip the text of the boss and kind of screw up the starting position. But more importantly, it wrecks the final boss music. So we just have this possibly more dramatic fight in silence. I'm not really sure.
The music for this boss is brilliant. I hate that this bomb trigger exists.
Oh, it's fantastic music. It really is some of the best music in the game. But Node now, just waiting for the eye to open on the final phase of Deathel here, because the boomerang is a one-hit kill on this boss. Fun little Easter egg. Normally you would take 16 shots with the bow or 16 explosions with the bombs, but just 1 from the boomerang. And
so
GG Node
getting the win.
Yeah, very tight race.
21-17. Now, here's the thing. Like, they're both top 5 runners, and this could have gone either way. Like, even though you might think, well, Sagaz has a PB that's 1 minute 40 seconds ahead. It really, their PBs don't matter in this race because it's so close. So Node also going to do a verify check here.
Just checking to make sure he got all the photos. Some of those are surprisingly easy to miss.
Okay, he's got everything. Yeah, so the heart piece he's missing is the one that's in Dungeon 8, and then it's the heart container from the Dungeon 8 boss.
And unfortunately, Sagaz missed. We don't get to show off Deathel Skip. Sagaz missed it.
Hello.
Hello, Sagaz.